Hello there, guys. So yeah, this is as you can tell from the title, this episode will be covering Black Panther in anticipation of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and this will be the final Marvel episode for the year. I won't be doing an episode for the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I will instead be covering that next year because Guardians 3 is coming out, so I'll be talking about that then. But yeah, final episode of the year covering a Marvel property, so I hope you all enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and this week I am joined by a new guest, the quite funny and entertaining Harry Jobson.
Oh, you build me up too much. That's so kind. How you going, everybody? Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and so for this week's episode, we will be covering Black Panther, the Marvel film, the 2018 film, because there's a sequel coming out, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and at the end of this episode, we'll probably talk a little bit about it, of what we do know about it, keeping up with the new film that much beyond like watching the trailers, because
Yeah,
I don't have as much investment in this franchise anymore. Just like I'm putting it out there.
yeah.
I
It's been hard. It's been hard as a Marvel. I consider myself a Marvel fan
mhm,
since probably the first Guardians movie. I've
mhm.
really enjoyed them. It's been a rough road. So let's hope Black Panther: Wakanda Forever can sort of bring some of that back because of just how much impact the first one had on the wider MCU. It was very
Yeah.
much a completely different approach, and
hmm
we're probably going to get into that pretty soon.
Yeah. So yeah, you're a big fan of the MCU. I
Yeah,
take it. Like,
I'm a big superheroes guy, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
but kind of
yeah.
generic. Can't get it.
Yeah. But yeah, like I hope that that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is good, and from early buzz, because it's sort of been premiering in a few places. People have seen it already, and people are saying it's good, and they're sort of, and I mean, but people say that about a lot of Marvel things anyway. So I'm cautiously optimistic because Chadwick isn't in it. Um,
Yeah, and how they're going to evolve with that character because
yeah,
such a huge part of the first film was
yeah, uh,
about T'Challa as a character. So
yeah. Um, but yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Wakanda Forever at the end of this. But yeah, I saw Black Panther when it came out. I don't know like when exactly. I didn't see it like when it first came out, but I saw it like within the first like couple weeks, and like this was just a massive film.
2017 wasn't it? Am
No,
I
2018. I think it was like the
18?
beginning of 2018. It's like February 2018. So it was like
Yeah.
just before. It was like 2 months before Infinity War came out. So it
Yeah.
was like, and yeah, no, this came out and it just made it just people were loved this film. Like it was
It won
truly,
Oscar. It won
yeah,
Oscars.
it won like multiple Oscars, for I think like score and like costumes and makeup, like sort of those things.
It,
Or
it, it won the popular film,
mm,
which I think personally is a terrible Oscar category.
yeah,
But
I think it was yeah, and I don't know if they ever established it properly. I don't
there were
know.
about 3 years of it or something.
I'm not entirely sure. I thought they like brought it up as an idea and then people were like, oh, that's terrible, and they decided, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that. I don't know. I sort of don't really care about it because it doesn't really mean anything because
Yeah,
it's
it's like here we'll give you one sort of thing.
yeah,
Where I mean I thoroughly enjoyed Black Panther as a story. I think
yeah,
when watching it and watching it recently again, it can be its standalone thing and it is quite good. Although it has its flaws, I'm not sure if certain parts made it Oscar worthy.
yeah,
The score is something that definitely deserves praise, though.
yeah. So I'm just looking at what Black Panther was nominated for. So it was nominated for Best Picture, which still looking back seems very kind of bizarre to me. Like it's not.
What other films were nominated?
Uh, Give me a second. Sorry. yeah, like, because I like this film well enough. Like, I think this is actually a pretty solid film, but like Best Picture, like that feels, I don't know. So nominated that year was, so Green Book won Best Picture, and then nominated alongside it were Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice.
Okay, so not a stacked year.
Not
Not
no,
really like
a
not really
year.
like a 1998 sort of year.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it's a year where a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is a pretty weak year in terms of nominees," because it's like a lot of those had controversies around them, like Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody were like the two main ones that people were like, "That's not really good," and there were controversies around them, and then
yeah, if like not to stray away from Black Panther, but just real quick on Bohemian Rhapsody, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy the story of Queen and stuff.
yeah,
It's not an Oscar-winning movie. It is
yeah,
obviously it's an awesome story, and
yeah,
it's quite upsetting. But
yeah.
just like
As a film, it's not like this is
yeah,
one of the top 8 films of the year or anything. It's
yeah,
yeah,
that's. I wonder what the snubs were.
yeah.
I I'm having such a difficult time sort of casting my mind back to 2018 as like a film in the
Like a
film
year of
aspect.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't a particularly strong year for films in general. It was very much like
Oh, Deadpool 2, did that come out? That was snubbed, surely.
uh, uh, yeah, Deadpool 2 did come out that year. I think that my thing about Black Panther being nominated for Best Picture is like it wasn't even the best MCU film that year. Like Infinity War is quite a bit better, and I think like that is just
But
pretty much perfect in terms of like
but I agree. I do agree. I think I probably oh, as an MCU fan, I prefer Infinity War. But if I'm gonna just watch a film, I'd rather watch Black Panther for a few reasons. One being that although it does have tying points to the MCU, you could have never watched an MCU movie,
but
watch
you could
Black
watch Black
Panther, and
yeah
still enjoy it.
yeah I think
Whereas
Infinity War is like the culmination of
Black
10
Panther
years
is
of
a
films, whereas Black Panther is
Black
like
Panther stands alone and fits in
yeah
really well.
yeah it's a
Whereas
yeah
Infinity War fits in the best. It is the culmination. But at the same time, if I was to put my older brother, who's only ever watched, say, two Marvel movies in his life,
mm.
and sit him down and make him watch Infinity War, he would be 100% lost. It
Yeah,
is, yeah.
it's very dense, and there's a lot going on in Infinity War, and there's so many character stories that are sort of concluded in that film. Whereas Black Panther
And,
is a relatively good starting point because you can sort of watch it without any real context.
and that's a part of the praise for Black
Yeah.
Panther's creative
Mhm.
structure. The fact that I can I can sit down and watch it now
Mhm.
and don't feel like I'm going back in time. Whereas if I sat down and watched even one of the older Spider-Man ones or
Mm.
uh, something that is heavily tied within the MCU,
Mhm. Yeah.
it would feel dated because I know the future of the plot. Whereas Black Panther,
Yeah. You can.
it stands alone.
Mhm. Yeah. It I think Black Panther, yeah, sort of as a film and sort of a overall because it does sort of continue on from Civil War just a bit
Oh yeah,
because Black Panther's introduced in that, but you don't really need it that much in order
it
to
flashes back enough to
yeah, it explains enough that like okay, this is a thing that sort of happened at some point. We don't need to yeah, because it's touched on because his father is he sort of goes to the sort of when he dies or he gets
the
his power
ancestral
the
plane.
ancestral plane. Yeah, he meets he sees his dad and he's dead, but and they have conversations and all that throughout sort of in multiple points in the film.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. What happened? Yeah,
what happened? Yeah, so and basically and to sort of get into the film, the opening is a flashback. We see uh, T'Chaka and this and he meets Sterling K. Brown, who is, as we learn later, this full spoilers by the way for this film, as every episode is. We meet him, and we meet Sterling K. Brown, who is Killmonger's dad, which we learn later on in the film. And it's sort of weird the way it's structured, because it kind of just it ends. Like there's no sort of, like, he sort of says, "Okay, we're gonna take you back to Wakanda," and then that's sort of it. We don't really see anything else, which we learn later
There is no further context until the character himself finds out what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I
And
think it's a bit. I saw a video of a guy, and he was talking about Black Panther, and well, he did a review of Black Panther, then he did like a review of the whole MCU, and he basically said how he would have done it would have been, he would have shown basically what we see where T'Chaka kills the guy, and then that's the opening, is T'Chaka killing him, and that would sort of create in an audience member's head like, okay, things aren't entirely right. We sort of be questioning the sort of morality of T'Challa's dad, and we'd want T'Challa to find out, because like he should know this because his dad did this thing, and so I think that would have worked better. As sort of as is, it just sort of ends a bit abruptly, and there's no real, for me anyway, there's no real resolution
yeah,
to
it
it.
is. It is a very, because when you first open the film, you're greeted with one of the most beautiful opening sequences of, and we can get into this later through it because it is actually a big part of the technology is the vibranium infused earth. You know that dark
Oh
gray sort of
yeah,
earth.
yeah. It like
It's
that stuff
that
looks really great.
and obviously it's used throughout the rest of the film,
Mm-hmm.
but um it is, we're taken through a whole story set by that, and
Yeah.
then we jump to 1992 Oakland,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
where, and to be fair, I remember when I first watched this in theaters, I thought, what's going on? Like, is that T'Challa? Is that because no, it doesn't tell you who they are,
No,
and
it doesn't. Yeah, we sort of, yeah, the two.
you're just seeing the images of some children playing basketball,
Yeah, and there's no
and
real context to it. We just see
yeah,
kids. Yeah, and yeah, I think the opening where they sort of explain the history of Wakanda and like sort of the five tribes. I think because they sort of need to do that to sort of to sort of set up the world.
of
Yeah,
course,
and
yeah.
you've got like M'Baku and the Jabari tribe, who aren't with sort of the main tribes. They're sort of on their own and everything, which you need to set up for later on. And I think it's not, it doesn't feel clunky though. The sort of way the story's told, it just sort of
It,
feels
it, it
like.
it really, I personally like the way the experience of watching the story unfold how it is. I
Mm-hmm.
think straying away from giving all the context first, so then we as a reader know, or we as a viewer
Mm-hmm.
understand what has happened, and the character doesn't. It can be sometimes frustrating. Let's say you're watching a horror film
Yeah. All
and
right.
you know what's going to happen because you've been given some other sort of context, but the
Mm-hmm.
character doesn't. Or when the viewer, in any circumstance, when the viewer is given context, but the lead characters don't know, it's frustrating
Mm-hmm.
because you know and they don't, and you're like, this is it, and you're waiting for that sort of reveal. Whereas when the
Mm-hmm.
reveal comes out of nowhere, you, as a viewer, sort of, obviously not nearly as shocked as the character itself, but you are along with that and allows
Yeah.
you to
You're discovering. Yeah.
empathize, and understand with T'Challa,
Yeah, and you're. Yeah.
and even Killmonger in a sense,
Mm.
where it's you sort of empathize because we see, because further on in the clip we obviously see the development of Wakanda
Yeah.
and Wakanda politics, and it's a beautiful display of culture. The sound design is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It
I think.
And then we're put
Yeah.
in London,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
and the movie picks up from that.
Yeah. Sort of a contrasting. Um, between things. And I think because Black Panther, we were just talking about the Oscars before, and so yeah, it won best original score, costume design, and production design, which I think is well deserved because it like the world of Wakanda that is created looks very good. Like it looks
Yeah, I
creating
will.
whole
The
culture.
the landscapes are ridiculously beautiful. But
Yeah.
even though you know that they're fully like,
Yes.
or not all of them, but a lot of them are fully CGI,
Yeah.
it is. It's still very much a spectacle. It seems like this different world, and that's the whole point. Um,
Hmm.
but some of the fight scenes and some of the like when Black Panther jumps and stuff,
Yeah. It's
you can almost see the cables, or you can almost see how like goofy it's. Because I remember watching it earlier and
yeah.
thinking, "Oh my God, this is reminding me of the scene when you go back and watch the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man films,
Yeah.
and you see Tobey Maguire jump between the buildings, and it is
Yeah.
like the most fake,
Yeah.
clearly sort of, and that does remove from the bit, but obviously, like, not knocking the production or the animation department within
The
Marvel working on this, because it is done really well, but there are just parts, and it still happens today. You saw in the newest Spider-Man film, there are a lot of sort of weird movements that just felt unnatural,
yeah.
that look unnatural, and
Yeah.
it's especially the train scene with um, Killmonger and T'Challa. That
Yeah.
fight where they're falling, it can get a bit hard to watch.
Yeah. It that's yeah, sort of when it's like because when it's with sort of creating like when they're like the CGI is used to make ships or like create landscapes or anything, it looks really good. But when you're CGIing people, like just completely making people, it looks very ropey and looks like clearly fake because like
Oh, it's very difficult to do, people.
yeah, cause and just like the movements, it's like oh that doesn't look. They just turn into like noodle people. They like their arms and their legs just move in a way that like isn't natural for a
It's very
human.
jerky.
Yeah, very jerky, and it just sort of like one I noticed is in when they're in Korea and T'Challa he jumps from like the ground to like a ledge. It's like oh,
Yeah.
it looks and because he's not in like the suit or anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, it looks very. And that's sort of one of the problems is the CGI at some points does not look good and very much takes me out of it. And I do have a few other sort of problems with the film, which I'll touch on as we sort of go through. But I think that yeah, and so after we sort of get the flashback to sort of and explanation of Wakanda as we meet with T'Challa and he's sort of on this mission to rescue Nakia, who is his ex girlfriend. I think now's a good sort of opportunity to sort of talk about the characters. There's a lot of characters in this film, and
Yeah.
I think that's a problem too because I'm not interested in like half of them. Like a lot of them are just like there's too many
Yeah,
characters, based.
I fully understand that. There are a few characters that I quite enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, T'Challa and Killmonger. I like the leader of the opposing tribe. Sorry, what was
Oh, Daniel
um
M'Baku or
M'Baku? M'Baku. I quite liked his character.
yeah,
Uh, I think it was a great use of character he was, especially bringing him up as sort of like coming together of the two communities.
the two
Um,
yeah two tribes.
my issue with the whole romance subplot, which is
Yeah,
really sort of put on the back burner a little bit,
yeah.
is
They sort of
is that
half do it. They don't sort of up in the
yeah,
air if like because they don't really commit to it. They're just sort of like oh they were together and then they have like a couple scenes together, but it's just like they don't and then they sort of get together at the end and it's just like I mean I feel like we didn't need that though. It feels kind of
it sets
unnecessary.
it sets from the get go when we're first introduced to her that it that he is infatuated with her, that he's in love. Like he freezes, and that's the whole joke. It's, oh, did he freeze? Like a
Yeah.
deer in headlights.
Yeah.
At the same time, it just seems as if they don't make any ground throughout the whole film, and then at the end, he comes up with this idea, and I thought, surely you could have figured that out before this. You know what I mean? I I,
Yeah.
I feel like the obviously the to jump to the end of the film,
Hmm.
the whole resoluting like point of you can still fill out your calling to help other people and be with me here in Wakanda is that they started a community outreach center and whatnot. I don't feel as if that the main plot of the film had anything to do with that. It obviously did because it's the buildings in which his uncle was killed by his own
Yeah.
father, and where
Hmm.
Killmonger was raised, and we saw what that does to a person in that area.
Yeah.
So it is good, but at the same time, I felt as if the the film would not have changed drastically at all if there was no romance subplot. It's not,
Yeah,
yeah,
it feels necessary because T'Challa, he has sort of like all these characters around him because he's got his mum, he's got his sister, he's got his ex girlfriend, and he's got his bodyguard. Like that's four sort of major female characters, and only two of them I felt were developed enough for me to be interested, which was
his
Shuri,
sister.
his sister, yeah, and Okoye, who is his bodyguard. But his mum and ex just sort of feel like they aren't that necessary. Like I understand why his mum's there. He kind of needs to have a parental figure. But Nakia, who is his ex, is just kind of like we don't need her. She doesn't really do anything. The ending of the film again, like they could just like tweak the ending of the film, and then that's it. Like they don't need her really. Like just tweak the
Yeah.
film slightly, and she can be removed. And like
That being said, there are positives to her though, I believe. Um, she is the middle ground
yeah, I
between between what T'Challa is and what Killmonger is as characters. She is the middle,
mm,
and his care for her and her approach to her, she wants to help other people, and that
hmm
ultimately is what Killmonger wanted to do as well, whether it was in some twisted sort of
yeah,
way.
he wants to
Um,
help people, but he wants to do it in a way that like is
it's a
basically
very
arming
it's a
people and saying let's just go kill everyone that opposes
it's a
us.
very MCU approach to a villain. Because if you look at the MCU's biggest bad as of late,
Yeah,
Thanos,
yeah,
he just wanted to help people, but he went about it completely wrong.
yeah. And I
And
think yeah,
yeah,
to sort of touch on Killmonger, I think he's one of the best villains the MCU has ever
oh,
done. Like he
oh yeah, oh 100%.
and this was sort of the period where Marvel was doing villains, but villains that you could understand why they were doing what they were doing, because sort of we had sort of previously we had like Vulture in Homecoming, and we had Ego in Guardians 2, who was really good as well. And then yeah, Killmonger in Black Panther, Thanos in Infinity War. All these characters who they are villains and they are doing bad things, but the way in which they are, like you
They're not
understand,
traditionally evil.
yeah, you sort of
It's
understand why they are evil or why they are doing these things.
yeah, and that's obviously it's a good way because it makes you feel somewhat sympathetic, and
Yeah,
I feel as if the most recent villain that has been truly evil was the Green Goblin in the most recent Spider-Man film, and
yeah, because
that
even in yeah
and not
recently,
Norman Osborn, but the Green
the
Goblin as a
Green Goblin,
character,
yeah, because yeah
because they
recently
are separate.
separate, yeah, yeah, because yeah recently we had Wanda in Doctor Strange too, and you see why she is the way she is. She's not just evil for evil's sake. She has a reason for being that way. And then
Yeah,
you
she's
had
stupid evil though.
yeah,
That she's not smart in that film at all. Like, if I was her, just I don't want to get into it, but kill one of the multiverse mums and take their place.
yeah. I think that
And
instead,
permanently. And you save the whole almost the multiverse ending sort of thing.
and then yeah, we had Gore in Thor: Love and Thunder, who again he sort of I could see why he hates the gods, regardless, like sort of
Blinded by rage,
blinded by
but
rage, yeah. But you see why he is, because he sort of lost
oh yeah,
things,
he sees his god as he prayed to his god his entire life and had devout faith
yeah.
and
And his god,
lost his family to it, and his
yeah,
god was a lazy
yeah, this god
jerk.
this god clearly did not care. So he's like, all right, I'll just go kill all of them because they don't, they can't really, they're not helping me. And yeah, he's a like Gore is a whatever villain. He's not amazing, but
Yeah,
he's fine. But yeah, Killmonger I think is a really good villain, and his death scene is like
it's beautiful.
is yeah, it's fantastic. He him dying, and then he's talking like, and Charles like, we can heal you, we can make you better, and he's like, why would I do that? Because you'll just keep me locked up. And then he
Yeah,
says,
and then it's a beautiful line about his ancestors
yeah,
jumping off the ships because
yeah,
they knew that death was better
better
than
than
being bound.
bondage. Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah,
that's like that's very raw in terms of dialogue, because it's like Marvel doesn't really do that, but that sort of hits at a level of like this is not like, this is that's like a line.
you're not going to watch Chris Hemsworth Joker in a whole film the whole time. This isn't one of those.
Yeah,
This isn't
this is a serious film, and talking about sort
yeah.
of racism and sort of what it does to people, and it
What
doesn't try to justify why people act the way they like, because there's,
if
but like it's sort of,
yeah,
you see why he is that way. It's not saying he's right for doing what he's doing, but it's like, hey, if this stuff was dealt with properly, he wouldn't be like this. I think it's sort of putting
yeah,
that sort of idea out
these
there.
he's saying that these people need help and that it's selfish of
Yeah,
Wakanda to not give them that like help. Although he does go about it again in the wrong
again in the
like
wrong way. Yeah,
way.
and
Uh, if I was just to ask you, sorry, real quickly,
yeah,
if there is one key idea or theme
mm-hmm.
that you took away from this film, what would you say it is overall?
I
When I was, oh, you go ahead. Sorry,
no, so I was just thinking, because this film, it really touches on it touches on in some ways sort of, I guess you could say, elements of like sort of racism in society, like it because and it because of just the discussions of like, yeah, race, because it feels it's at sort of at the forefront of this film at time, because for Killmonger's character, because he wants to help black communities and everything, and his dad, he wants to help the black communities, and it's, he's talking about how they are over policed and people get incarcerated, and then there's drugs and all these weapons and everything, and Wakanda could help them, take out, I guess, the white people, I guess, is the sort of way they're going about it. And they're like, no, we don't do that, because that's not the right way either. Like but also it's like Wakanda is also in the wrong, because they're not doing anything to help either. They're just sort of sitting back and trying
yeah,
not to get involved, which is also a wrong way of looking at it, because it's like, you could be making good positive changes to the world. You've got the ability to do so, and in
yeah.
choosing not to, it is incredibly selfish, and part of the problem as
O-
well.
o- although I do understand where Wakanda is coming from in the sense that if we were, it's much easier to sit down and just say you're a peaceful third world country than
Mm-hmm.
to give out the information to the world, and we know how, and not to cast shade on anyone, but especially the US, we know how they've been in the past when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to precious material, whether it be
Yeah.
oil and what they do to nations.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
if the world found out about Wakanda's sort of rich land,
Yeah.
and
I mean
it
the
would be
vibranium,
they'd be
yeah.
completely and utterly under threat. They could definitely outpower them,
Yeah.
overpower them. The technology we're going to have is unrivaled, but at the same time, they state themselves that they're peaceful and that
Yeah.
they don't want to fight unless absolutely necessary. So to avoid conflict, I understand that, but it does bring up another array of issues when it comes to sort of societal issues around oppression and power and what you can do with certain powers and choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I when I was watching the film, I could not escape the idea in my head when it comes down to the sound design and
Mm-hmm.
just the characters of the protagonist and the antagonist and just everything. How it's a traditionality and cultural based character. He's very traditional in the way he operates T'Challa. He's very
Yeah.
Wakanda is a very traditional sort of sacred
Yeah, like
cultural spectacle
yeah,
almost.
like his first day he
Whereas,
wears like traditional sandals and everything, sort of
well,
traditional
exactly.
Wakandan garb.
And before Killmonger is ever makes his way to Wakanda, the sound design is very sort of traditionally African. You've got that
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful drumming and whatnot,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. And what Killmonger represents is the modernization of that culture
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and what happens when someone who has such a rich cultural history
Yeah.
is raised in a racist, hating, westernized environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously, the like Kendrick Lamar went off on this on the um, set
Soundtrack?
list for
Set,
yeah
yeah,
soundtrack.
because
Sorry,
he,
I'm
yeah, because they did songs
but
for this, didn't they? They did like original songs for this.
yeah, but as soon as Killmonger rocks up, that drumming switches to 808s. It switches to very hip hop, very sort of
Modern sort
almost
of
modern. It yeah, and
music, sort
it's
of
more
for that sort of culture, for a modern like African American culture, I guess you could say. Like,
yeah, but it's the same as how Killmonger thinks and operates and fights. He represents the evolution
mm-hmm,
of
the
a
modern,
culture within a different environment and
yeah,
coming back to almost and like when someone of that is put or goes back to if not one of the purest forms of traditionality in well Wakandan culture where
yeah,
you take someone who has it's hard to explain, but for example, when we first see Killmonger, it's in London, and
mm-hmm,
you just get this whole sense where it's he's so witty and he's so quick and he's so
yeah. His
sort
introduction,
of powerful
he's not
without like
really doing anything. He's just
yeah
sort of, yeah, sort of the way he presents himself. Like, because yeah, his introduction at the museum, he's being very cool and very calm, and he's just sort of talking, and he's asking about all these artifacts and everything. But like, it feels like to me like he knows everything about these artifacts. He's just asking because he's just make saying if she like is gonna tell him the truth or if she's just sort of gonna
feel as if that she's ignorant though.
ignorant, yeah, and she sort of
Yeah,
keep
because yeah, obviously it's also a bit of so the poison can set in.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, when we're first introduced to him, all the way until where he is laying on the cliff, it's
yeah,
very, it's very sort of, it's very symbolic of
yeah.
how,
The sort of musical cues and everything sort of are very different, so you can yeah sort of tell them apart, and they yeah differentiate them because of the way. And you know the sort of the score in general, I think, is one of the probably the best scores the MCU has had. Honestly, I think it's so different to anything else they've ever had that it really stands out, because a lot of Marvel music feels to me like it just sort of blends together. Like a lot of it is just like once you sort of hear one set of Marvel music, you've heard it all, and I think this one really, yeah, is able
Uh,
to differentiate in sound, and it sort of fits more, and yeah, with
this
the
one uses
drums and
sound. This one uses sound more than any other film. This one, a key part of it is how it sounds. It's a cue of what's going to happen, and the sound design in this film is amazing. It's completely beautiful. I would say that there are other MCU films that have great sound, like soundtracks, but
mhm.
this one uses, I think, this one is more impactful than any other because you have Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah, but
and
that's more just using licensed
that's
songs to
using
sort of,
licensed music
as opposed
to
to sort of
to
creating, yeah,
add a
uh,
funny, yeah,
yeah, instead of creating something original. Whereas Black Panther is creating something original plus
yeah,
original songs, like with lyrics and everything, sort of made for the film. Um,
yeah.
and I think because Black Panther, it feels different from a lot of the other Marvel films. Honestly, like it's not. And that's sort of a complaint that I sort of heard, that all the Marvel films are the same and everything, which is not true. Like, if you truly look at all the films together, they are rather different in terms of, plot and character and what they're
I
doing.
do I do understand that argument. Nowadays, a lot of Marvel films are very cookie cutter. You
Yeah,
could
I think so.
you could take Thor Ragnarok and make it a Captain Marvel movie, and oh no, not Thor Ragnarok, sorry, Thor Love and Thunder, and make it a Captain Marvel movie, and I'd be like, it wouldn't change it for me, honestly. Obviously, you'd have to change a lot of the characters that couldn't be gods and whatnot, but
Yeah.
it you could, it's almost, some of them are very copy paste, but that's when you
Yes.
get gems such as Black Panther, where it really, it's a treat. It honestly is. Where, and I'll argue that older MCU films weren't cookie cutter at all. But after they reached such a level of success, they hit a standard in
Yeah.
which they'll know they'll make money regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
the most recent deviation of that we've seen is the Werewolf by Night. They came out most recently,
oh yeah, I
and
really
it
like
was
that.
just so refreshing to
Yeah,
see
cause
something
yeah, it's a like hour
different.
long, yeah, hour long black and white sort of horror piece, sort of throwback to classic Universal monster films. And yeah, it was nice to see, because Marvel, I think in some aspects they are trying new things. Like She-Hulk is very different to a lot of other stuff they've done, and that sort of, but it wasn't like great. Miss Marvel was trying new things, and that was like fine, but it wasn't that amazing. Like, I think
I liked
Marvel,
Loki.
yeah, Loki
I did
was.
like,
I think at the beginning of Phase 4, when they were beginning everything again, because they hadn't, and nothing had come out. I think when One Division was coming out and all those kinds of shows and movies, I was like really excited because we hadn't had anything new since
yeah.
2019. So
It it was upsetting though coming up to go to, so WandaVision, awesome, Loki, amazing, and then you come to uh well, which is now Captain America and Winter Soldier, but it's Falcon and Winter
Falcon and Winter
Soldier.
Soldier, yeah,
Um, where obviously it focus heavily on racism as well throughout this,
yeah,
and sort of stigma,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it felt like, oh, so we have a foreign villain who wants to start a radicalist group who takes over the world, and I'm like, this feels so familiar to me.
yeah,
It felt so sort of,
and I think. Yeah, I
yeah,
think with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it doesn't handle those elements as well as Black Panther does. Like, Black Panther
not at all. No.
really in is sort of put together, and in terms of how it's written and everything, really doesn't like it's I don't think
Yeah.
subtle's the word, but it doesn't like
It's not.
uh,
It's definitely not. It doesn't feel like it's being forced. It feels like it is natural.
yeah, and it
And
fits within the context
yeah,
and like it it's sort of and I think like and I'm not against having topics of racism or whatever being in media and everything, but there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. And I think Black Panther is a good example of how to do it correctly. I think they really sort of were like did it correctly, and they were like because it's a relatively big part of the film, but it doesn't feel sort of forced or like it's just sort of
yeah,
trying to really like I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to put it exactly. Yeah, it's not like forced. It's not forced. It feels very natural within the context of the
yeah.
story.
It is very much an element of its environment,
Yeah, and
and it would feel weird without that discussion and without the theme and
yeah, and
ideas.
the history of certain parts of the world. And it makes sense. And now and and yeah, Killmonger again. He is a character who is his character is built upon those kinds. About racism and wanting to help out black people because of the injustices they have faced and everything. But yeah, he's just the way he goes about doing it is wrong, and I think it's handled better than other movies or TV shows handle those same topics. So you have to give them
Yeah.
credit for that.
I mean, we have been praising Black Panther on the way it strays from a lot of the MCU, but
Mm.
it does also there's an element that I remember watching the film and thinking, I'm so glad that this is so different, but at the same time, this character doesn't need to be here. And
Which character?
it feels so, I'm going to get to that and building up. I'm sort of
All
creating
right,
suspense.
suspense. All
Uh,
right.
yeah, this
Yeah.
character doesn't need to be here, and it's such sort of a trope of these films where it goes, "Oh, it was so close," and that's uh, like, I think it's Sergeant Ross or Everett K. Ross.
Everett Ross. Yeah,
Yeah,
Martin Freeman.
yeah.
Who's the
He
CIA agent they
he doesn't
work with.
need to be there. It's that trope of let's bring a guy who's not familiar with the environment at all, but
Mm,
and who was sort of
yeah.
on the edge of like, um, obviously he saved Nakia's life,
Yeah.
and that was huge. But at the same time, it's sort of that he's supposed to be that character where he's walking through and he's like, "Why are we doing this? What's this?" Where he's there for almost a representation of the audience.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I'm like, did you really need to bring this? He's not a stumbling idiot by any means,
No,
but
but he feels
an
so
unnecessary.
unnecessary. Yeah, and it sort of feels like yeah, he's another one of the weaker characters that I could kind of do without because he really doesn't add much to it. Like he's not even like giving that great of a performance. I feel like he's sort of and he
Anyone,
really
yeah.
doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like he doesn't really well he does affect the plot because towards the end Killmonger sends out these he's shipping out weapons and Everett Ross has to take
Yeah,
out the two
he
ships.
comes in clutch, yeah. But at the same time,
You could
any
easily
Wakandan
rewrite
could have done
that.
that.
Yeah, you could have
Yeah,
rewritten that to have Shuri doing it or Nakia doing it and actually have her
yeah, that would
be
have been amazing
and
because
have
she
her
was
be
obviously in the fight, but to have Shuri and okay, yeah, fight
yeah.
Killmonger and what is it, Wakabi towards the end
Uh,
would be
yeah.
much better because like is it Nakia? She
Nakia's
isn't.
T'Challa's ex.
Yeah,
She's sort of
she isn't shown as such a warrior, which is like it's a good thing. It's obviously awesome. You get to see her sort of fight, but at the same time, I would have loved to see her completely almost put her life on the line where that glass is about to break
Yeah, exactly.
for Wakanda, even though she said she wouldn't return.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Like it would be sort of
yeah,
yeah a thematic. Yeah, it would have been a nice thematic sort of moment. But sort of as is, it's just kind of like yeah, I don't really feel like I need Martin Freeman in this one because he doesn't do enough. He's
yeah,
not
not
in
at
it
all.
that much, and I mean, I do someone who's also not in the film that much, but I do like. I really like Andy Serkis in it as Ulysses Claw. I like he's not because he's not in
Yeah.
it that much, but he's just very entertaining. Like he's a very funny character who really
He plays a he's basically a plot device. He's not
yeah he's yeah not
anything
that
else. But even then, I'm fully fine with that because he he's just crazy.
yeah he brings a certain presence that's like you know, he's very fun. He's like a very entertainingly fun villain. Like he's
Yeah.
not, and like he's not in it that much, but like the time that he is in that, like he steals the show. Like he's the best
Oh
part of like
yeah,
every scene he's in. Like his
because yeah, you've got comic relief in Shuri,
yeah for
and
sort of
Shuri is
the
a
good
reckon.
guys. Yeah,
But when when Claw's on screen, I don't know why. Even though he's a villain, it sort of makes me grin. I'm just like he brings this energy and
yeah,
this sort of lucky making his way through, like surviving up until he did,
yeah. Like his
and then but
yeah
he
the
serves a purpose of showing how powerful Killmonger is.
yeah and how
Where
Killmonger sort
Black
of
Panther,
is
Black
like
Panther couldn't get him. Chadwick, not Chadwick, sorry,
T'Challa.
T'Challa couldn't get him
Yeah,
with all like using as much as he can.
all
It
that.
slipped.
Yeah,
Well, because of Killmonger, but at the same time, like it's not ceremonious at all. He sort of just shoots him,
yeah. I think
and yeah,
that yeah I think Claw as a character yeah he does add yeah a certain bit of levity because you know Killmonger he's a very serious character yeah there's not really any sort of happiness in his character which makes sense that you sort of need some and like Claw's introduction scene at the museum where he he just like lets that guy run off and he shoots him and is like yeah I let him do that you know we have to look like amateurs and everything like that's really good you
it's
know he
funny though.
it's funny yeah because like he's but it also is quite sinister because like he knows what he's doing and he's making thing you know he's funny and his the scene where he's in the interrogation room as well is also a really good scene because it really illustrates his character and like how much he knows about the Wakandans. You know, he got to Wakanda, took vibranium, and you know he also helped set plot elements in motion because
Yeah,
he tells Everett Ross, he's like, "Hey, yeah, they've got a lot more vibranium than you think."
they're not a third world country. Like,
Yeah,
um,
they're pretty big. You know, they're quite dangerous actually if they wanted to be.
I would like to see how Black Panther Wakanda Forever carries on because it has to be a follow up from Endgame.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
It can't
Yeah,
it can't really be a so much has happened within the greater unit like cinematic universe
mm-hmm.
where it's impossible to follow up from the first Black Panther like directly. You
Yeah,
actually can't.
and
Um,
because of Chadwick not being in it, I wonder. That's the thing I'm most curious about is how they're gonna sort of because based on the
I believe
trailers,
Shuri will be.
Shuri will be the new Black Panther, which you know some people are not happy with because of the actress. They don't like the actress because she's got some beliefs that certain people don't agree with.
Letitia Wright, yep.
Yeah, and you know I think that's valid, but it's kind of also like I don't I do wonder like what they're gonna do with the film because I think from the trailers, from what I've gathered, T'Challa is I think dead. I think that's sort of the implication that has been sort of made from the trailers and everything is that he dies off screen, um, which kind of feels to me a bit disrespectful. I don't know. I'm not a fan of having characters die off screen. I think
especially when they're only alluded to and not fully explained. Uh,
Yeah,
it's upsetting, especially the level in which what his character is.
yeah, because he
Yeah,
because I guess sort of since we're on T'Challa, I didn't think he was like particularly amazing in this film. I thought like he was decent, but I found him to be a far more compelling character in Civil War. Like I find his
yeah.
character arc far more interesting, and I found him to be way more, I guess, like just cool in Civil War. Like when
To
he
Civil War, he's sort of on a path of vengeance
yeah, and then
for
he
his
sort of
father.
realizes like,
It
oh,
is a
you know,
trauma. Yeah. Whereas in um,
Black Panther, it's
this
more
film, it's more
yeah,
like the
this
resolution of that, how he has to become king, and then
yeah.
out challenge.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think it is a shame though that we won't see T'Challa as a character anymore now because I think they could do a lot with him. And honestly, I've talked to people about this and whether Marvel should have recasted T'Challa, and I think like I wouldn't necessarily
Obviously, it's very difficult to follow up Chadwick Boseman's performance.
yeah.
Obviously, rest in peace to the actor. It was an amazing. I think the acting and the quality that Chadwick Boseman brought to any role was amazing.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen maybe uh, I'm not too sure. Maybe some sort of representation
Yeah, I think like
of
if
the
they had
character. Yeah.
like if they were gonna do a recast of his character and maybe they would sort of kill him off in Wakanda forever to sort of wrap up with that character and then we have someone else as the new Black Panther,
Well, they
that might have worked better. But like it's an interesting spot that they
well
were.
they recast characters all the time.
Yeah, I know, but I think
Uh,
that was more. That was not necessarily because people had. Although they did just recast Thunderbolt
Ro-
Ross.
yeah,
Yeah,
and Rhodey, Don
Rhodey.
Cheadle obviously
Yeah,
plays.
but that wasn't
Um,
because Terrence Howard had
that was
died.
more
That was
just
a money
yeah, that
issue,
was
and they
yeah.
recast Bruce Banner as well from Ed
But see
Norton.
that the thing is that they're not all key characters except for I'd say Bruce Banner, who
Bruce Banner, yeah, he's
which
pretty
again,
important.
yeah, I mean Edward Norton. Not a lot of people saw that movie anyway, so
Yeah,
I never really thought it was a big deal. And even in the newer, I think it's the She-Hulk show, they allude to the fact where he's like, "I was a different person back then,"
yeah,
and I think
yeah,
that's really funny.
yeah. But I think because sort of yeah, and sort of the discussion around Black Panther, both the first film and Wakanda Forever, it also just kind of is like, do people like, because some people don't are kind of annoyed by these films because it's about because there's like a predominantly black cast in these films, which is like fine with me. But there's certain people who get upset by that kind of thing. It's just like, all right, guys, it's just a movie. Like, it's not. It
Well,
doesn't.
but that's anyone who gets upset with that is ridiculous.
I know it's
If I'm
and
if I'm doing a film in Scandinavia and there's predominantly white characters,
yeah, I don't think that
it makes cultural and geographical sense.
yeah.
I don't I never understood this whole like there needs to be a certain amount of this and certain amount of that.
Mhm.
Why do people see it as that and not just as
Yeah, if you're
characters?
telling a story
Uh,
about, yeah, in Africa, you're probably going to have a lot more, yeah, like, because Wakanda is an African country, so of course there's going to be predominantly black characters because that just makes sense.
and it
Because,
doesn't change the film at all. It enhances it, if anything,
yeah,
because it makes you're not sort of sucked out of that. Can you
yeah,
imagine if
because like the film, you can't really
it would
make Black
ruin it?
Panther,
Yeah.
yeah, with like because Killmonger as a character, he doesn't really work if he's played by like a white actor. Like it doesn't like it makes no sense. Then the story make like you need
Oh,
for the
yeah.
story they're telling, they need
Could you
you know
imagine like Henry Cavill rocks up as something ridiculous? Where
yeah
it when you're talking about a film that discusses such heavy topics about race and about culture and cultural progression and regression and the
yeah
difference between that and how different cultures are being treated throughout the world.
Yeah.
Have it as like it would make no sense. The only other actor I see being able to pull off that is like Jonah Hill, maybe. But but yeah, I I never understood the argument,
No,
and
it's a
that
bizarre.
it's an issue with a lot of the. Oh, we might be throwing some shade at some MCU fans here, but like, come on,
Yeah,
I don't.
it doesn't. I don't get bothered by it. It's like it makes sense, and it also like these are all characters from the comics as well, which doesn't. Which
Yeah,
is like is they're they're
it's not like
they're
they're. It's not like
accurate
they're.
from the
Yeah,
comics. Like it's not, and they're and for a lot of the characters, their race really isn't that important. Like it's not like met brought up like Shuri like her like she's just a woman who creates all these cool gadgets, like that's what she does. There's it's not really
yeah. I. They do allude in the first film that to Shuri becoming Black Panther, where they say that she should be the one to drink from the heart shaped.
yeah
Yeah,
I think
where
like that might have always been a plan, was to maybe have her take up the mantle at some point when
eventually.
Chadwick would
Yeah,
have retired. uh but unfortunately reality sucks and Chadwick Boseman
and you've
passed
got to
away.
speed up,
Yeah,
and you've got
and
to
they've got
speed
to.
up the sort of
Yeah, because you
the,
can't
yeah,
really, because if they weren't
yeah.
gonna recast Chadwick, then you've just got to do what I assume they had planned to do anyway, was have
Very
Shuri
interest.
take over.
I'm very interested to see how they handle it in the second movie, and
Mm-hmm.
the sort of the death of T'Challa,
Yeah.
because uh, they're like Shuri having to deal with the fact that she had lost a brother
Mm-hmm.
almost twice as well. Like this would be the third time
That is true. Yeah,
because
because he's
it's
died twice
fully
already. Yeah.
almost died in the first film.
Yeah, he almost.
But
That is true. He
everyone thought
almost
they were
died.
dead
Yeah.
anyway, so like
Yeah.
they grieved as if he was dead, and then
Yeah.
died again in
Infinity
Infinity
War,
War.
and then
Yeah,
this is
but
the. No, because I mean, yeah, when T'Challa like nearly when we think he dies, which I kind of hate that as a trope when you think the main character's dead, but he's like
and
they're
he's
obviously not. It's like
yeah, it's
I
there is yeah. It does set up good character development though for M'Baku,
yeah no
and
it sort of puts in motion other things, but like
even more for Wakabi, which I
with
don't know. I don't like Wakabi's character. He really annoys me. I'm like, are you his friend or are you pissy because he didn't
he didn't
kill
claw, yeah,
Claw?
because
Which the
like
only reason he didn't kill Claw was because of Killmonger, and then Killmonger comes in and brings him dead Claw, and then you sort of sit there like, oh, this guy.
yeah, he sort of his allegiances turned very quickly because it is sort of established that he's like, look, we should just be like, we should go kill Claw, and Charles like, no, we don't do that here, like he's, but like, yeah, he's one of he's another sort of weak element that I'm like I don't particularly care for in this because he really doesn't add too much.
He,
He really doesn't add a whole lot, honestly. The army really could have just been like he's not actually that necessary in
he's necessary in the context of its like the final fight, the final big battle scene. But even then, that whole battle scene only takes place because it gives something for the other characters to do.
yeah,
Where
when it could have just been T'Challa versus Killmonger in the suits, and maybe have
yeah,
like someone out like Shuri or whatever taking down the ships, and you just have like they could have just done that honestly, I think they sort of like, oh, we should have like a big battle at the end of this film because we kind of need to because it's a Marvel film.
that
But
reminds me of yeah. I was like, big battle at the end in the third act.
yeah,
What movie is? Yeah, no,
because yeah,
I'm messing around. But yeah, just quickly on Killmonger.
mm-hmm.
Uh, we haven't discussed yet. We've sort of danced around a fair few topics so far. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't discussed how he is instantly shown is just so powerful. He
Yeah.
well to the people of Wakanda anyway. He rocks up with the dead guy,
Yeah, and
with, with
I
dead
like
claws that
I really love
that
that
T'Challa
scene
couldn't kill,
where he just
and he
kills all those people. Where he's like where they're at the planet and he just shoots the guy, and then he just shoots his girlfriend like it's nothing, and then he just shoots Claw. Like he just does it like it was nothing, and it's like, damn, like
yeah,
that's really like he's just sort
and
of
he's
like a
shown as someone who's so powerful in the when he challenges, um, in the challenge
yeah, he
for the
challenges
throw.
because yeah we've seen because it's
He
the second one we've seen because we have the sort of first one with M'Baku and T'Challa gets messed up in that one like he gets like stabbed multiple times and but you know he's and manages to win by threatening to throw them off a waterfall.
yeah, he also sort of chokes him out with his
Yeah,
legs,
chokes him out. Yeah,
whereas like he could have snapped his neck. I think that was the big bit of it, but at the
yeah,
same time, it was Killmonger just like he hardly gets scratched. He gets like a nosebleed,
yeah. Like he gets like
and
one cut like along his face, like his cheek, and that's it. Really, like he doesn't take that much damage. He's just like cutting at T'Challa, and then he stabs Forrest Whitaker, who yeah he just dies, and then
I do like that character though of
mm,
Azuri. I really liked Azuri
I
as a
thought he
character.
was yeah I thought he was alright.
Sort of like a oh, I'm trying to think of a character to relate him to, but a wiser.
He's sort of like a wise elder who sort of
Yeah. Well,
he gives advice and
he he's like a rough father figure for
yeah he's the
yeah,
best. He's like the next best thing to a father figure now that T'Chaka
which
is
was a
dead.
which was a shame that we didn't get to see him in the ancestral plane when
Oh, when T'Challa
you
comes back, yeah,
yeah towards the start of the third act,
yeah, when
like
T'Challa they
he's
give him
back
the
sort of
herb
thing.
and he yeah meets with his dad and everything, yeah,
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Zuri then.
yeah,
Which also talking about like sets. Oh my god, the ancestral plane has to be one of the most beautiful afterlives we've seen
yeah.
because
It's
we have now seen a couple. We've seen
the soul,
Field of Reeds. We've seen the soul. Yeah, this
this is the
the
salsa, which is just sort of orange and sort of
pool. It's yeah.
reds and that
Then
kind of thing.
we see the ancestral plane, which is this purpley
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's like a yeah, it's
Uh,
like a field with like trees and yeah, just purple
and this
skies and everything. Yeah,
Aurora Borealis esque.
yeah, it looks great.
Um,
Like it's like I think this film, in terms of sort of imagery, has some of the best sort of individual images and shots as well. Like the cinematography, the way they like I love when Killmonger he becomes king and there's that like upside down shot that like rotates as he's walking towards the throne and then it's like like it's just like they really go very
and
unique with
you've
the
got
cinematography.
that beautiful sound design in the background
Yeah, exactly.
where
Then the
you're
sort
just
of
like, oh, this is threatening,
yeah,
and
like
like
he's
it
got
is very sort of menacing.
yeah, exactly. And I think the film it really but Killmonger is portrayed as like this dangerous character like because he wrecks T'Challa like he just cuts him up he's beating the shit out of him and then he just like tosses him off a waterfall like it's nothing. It's like he really is like a threat, because he's just
Yeah,
got, because he's a very different fighter because he when he fights the Dalek he doesn't go in with a shield or anything. He just goes with two like swords basically. He's like
yeah. Well, he
or
snaps a
spear.
spear
He snaps a spear. Yeah,
into yeah, where it's and that shows again. It's another great piece of storytelling and design
yeah,
that I think Black Panther does really well. The choice of weaponry, where it
yeah,
shows that Killmonger is a killer. He
yeah.
would rather have two weapons, whereas
T'Challa. Yeah, he's much
T'Challa
more
is
of
a
an
protector.
offensive fighter, whereas T'Challa sort of
T'Challa is a protector,
yeah, and he
where it
defends.
yeah
Yeah,
there's and it also makes complete sense in the way their philosophies reside. T'Challa's being obviously raised traditionally in Wakanda. It's very much of a protect our
yeah,
people, protect Wakanda, and not being aggressing and not being attacking.
yeah,
Whereas Killmonger's whole plan is to allow people to attack him to
yeah, and then he'll just
to
come in
become a
and
global force. Yeah,
yeah, and I think and the way he just sort of, because he just goes straight for just two weapons. He's like, he doesn't, he's like, he's so confident in himself that he's like, I don't need anything to protect me. I just need two weapons so I can attack, and because it
Uh, I
and
was I was thinking about this. It would have been great storytelling
hmm
to have M'Baku become the Black Panther, like to have T'Challa die, and when they originally go to M'Baku, could you imagine if he's just now the new Black Panther? Because obviously he's physically bigger, but
yeah,
he yeah, like obviously I like the way it turned out, but at the same time, it would have been it's sort of like a Marvel what if, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's
Where
like,
they have the what ifs. I'd love to see what if M'Baku
yeah, like
just took
T'Challa had
the
actually died. Like they were unable to save him, so they were like, "Fuck, we need to find someone else to do this." And then M'Baku, steps up and he becomes Black Panther. Yeah,
and
um,
the tribes connect as one Wakanda. I feel like that'd be awesome. But yeah, sorry, I digress.
but yeah, sort of with we've sort of been going all over the place with this film, which is fine. I think we're sort of touching on the sort of important things anyway. I think the fight scenes are very sort of mixed for me in terms of like quality, because like the fights like T'Challa versus M'Baku and T'Challa versus and Killmonger on like that water and like just above the waterfall, that's actually really, those are look really good, because I can tell like they're really like, I'm sure it's a lot of green screen and it's probably not real, well, it's probably somewhat real water, like what they're
Oh,
walking in.
they're fighting in a shallow pool on a blue set. Like
Yeah,
it, yeah, but it is beautiful still. There is
it
no doubt about that, and it is artwork.
yeah. And then, but when it comes to T'Challa versus Killmonger in the suits on like the train line, it just looks like so.
It's so bad.
Yeah,
It's
it looks
love the
so
film, but come
fake.
on.
Yeah,
It I yeah, and obviously there was a critique when the movie first came out,
yeah,
and
and
everyone knows by now sort
yeah,
of
and
the
like
jankiness of
yeah,
that scene.
and like when
But
they're falling down to the train, and it's just like this
oh
long
God.
shot of them falling, and it's like they just don't look like real people. They just look like two sort of shapes just sort of falling.
I also
Going.
thought they would have fell way quicker. Like they took forever. They
Yeah,
were
no, it's
falling in
it's a
slow
it's
motion, I
it's quite
swear.
elongated. They like well, because like T'Challa, he like tries to grab hold of a thing with like his claws, but they just fall, and it's like they're kicking each other. But it's like how much, like I feel like you can't get a whole lot of force, like and power behind movements when you're falling, because you don't have like
Yeah,
a
because you have
stable.
no yeah. Which there were only sorry. I just want to look up real quick the Black Panther wiki
All right.
because um like Black Panther obviously does have a list of powers,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think they include no gravity kicking. Black Panther's powers and abilities heighten strength, speed, stamina, agility, and reflexes. So, Master of Martial Arts, Acrobatics, and Handheld Weaponry utilizes highly advanced Wakandan technology, including energy daggers, vibranium woven body armor, and stealth aircraft. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so not
So a lack
mid-air
of
kicking.
gravity.
Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
sorry, I just thought I'd discuss that because there are characters that I'm a Spider-Man fanboy. Don't
Yeah.
like, but Spider-Man, he has this ability of like equilibrium. So no matter where he is, he's perfectly balanced. That's why he can like stand upside down and
Yeah.
never and walk like upside down and flips and never he's never disoriented. That's
Yeah.
a part of his ability is like perfect equilibrium.
Uh.
It does remove you from Black Panther when you from the film when you see sort of scenes like that and you go, well, this I mean Transformers looked better than this, and that's a Michael Bay film. So
Yeah. Like it. And
not hitting
yeah.
on Michael Bay, but like good like
Yeah, and it's weird because like, Marvel films have a lot of money. They're given a like
they're a little rich. They're a tiny bit rich.
yeah, they've got these giant budgets, like they often are given hundreds of millions of dollars to make. And
Yeah.
at times, like, you can clearly see that. You can see, like, the effect, the money has gone into the effects. And then other times, it's just like, what's happening here? There's nothing really going on. Like, the effects just don't hold up in some aspects. And it's sort of, yeah, like, we sort of keep going on about the effects, but I just want to say, like, it really
Yeah. Yeah,
takes me
it is
out
an
of it.
important part. It's an important part because when you have a film that is supposed to be so grounded in reality and real world issues, obviously, like
Minus the
it's
superhero and the
yeah, yeah,
hidden
yeah. But
African,
the but the
yeah,
but
like,
the themes and ideas
mm-hmm,
are about real world issues, and
yeah,
and then and
yeah.
then
It's
you
hard to take
see
seriously when you've got sort of silly CGI fight sequences.
yeah, and you see like the jankiest jump ever, and you go where the arms are swinging weird, and you just go, well, that sucks.
Yeah,
That's just not.
yeah,
It's not what you're looking for.
it
But
doesn't work as well here. Yeah, I think, like, this film, and because I think there's some really good stuff in it, and then the sort of weaker stuff is more noticeable compared to, like, the good stuff. I think that's something I've found with a lot of films. Like, you have these really solid films, and then the bad stuff seems so much worse than it actually is because of the other.
because it, well, to be fair, in any other film it would be fine. But
Mm,
you're held to such a you raise the bar when you produce such a decent level of storytelling, sound design, like
mm.
set design,
Yeah,
and
because all the practical stuff in terms of, the costumes and the makeup and the production design and everything else looks so great that when
they
you've
fall
got,
victim to themselves. They fall
yeah,
victim to their own, yeah, sort of standards.
and, like, it just, it's so, the effects are the only real problem in terms of the technical aspects of the film, I think, because it just looks not very good.
That some are done really well. I really enjoy his suit. Obviously, he gets an upgraded suit
Oh,
in
the
this film.
suit looks great.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah, like the black with,
I
like, the trims of silver in it and everything. Like, and then I really like, because this film uses a lot of purple, like the purple sort of elements throughout this film.
Obviously that's Black Panther's
Looks,
color, yeah,
yeah,
but
it looks great. Like, and when his suit starts, collecting that energy, and there's just the lines of purple throughout, I'm like, I mean, I know it's not meant to stay there, but I kind of wish it would because it just looks so good. Like, just having sort of
yeah,
varying lines
yeah,
of
the
purple.
impact points, and again, it every time we bring this up, it falls back into that the representation of their character.
Hmm.
Purple is very much more of a well, obviously it's the color of the Black Panther. I don't want to call it the Black Panther juice, but the heart-shaped
The
herb.
heart shape, yeah, the sort of stuff that
And
gives him powers and actually allows
it,
him
it,
to become the Black Panther.
and
Yeah,
you've got Black Panthers that give off this purple, like it's the color of the panther. It feels right, and
yeah,
then it feels culturally proper for
yeah,
the film, and it feels traditional. And then you've got Killmonger, who's gold,
yeah. Exactly. He's got the
and
gold,
it's this
bright.
braggadocious, it's this egotistical, it's this
Yeah,
sort of better,
come
it's the
look at
superiority
me. Yeah,
sort of,
this look
yeah,
at me. Because T'Challa mentions that, like, the silver is the whole thing is like, you're not meant to be seen, and silver's meant because sneak attacks, sneak, like Batman, I guess.
yeah,
And so having the
yeah.
silver necklace, is far less noticeable. And so it makes sense why he picks the silver. And again, it fits with their characters. T'Challa's the far more sort of reserved, sort of pulled back character, and Killmonger is just this, braggadocious, like, not pompous, but, like, he's very
Self-righteous sort of,
self-righteous, confident guy who, like,
yeah.
look at me, I'm in gold, I'm the king, look at my gold, like, he's, and because
Props to
he's,
Michael B. Jordan, and he plays the role really well. We haven't really talked about his performance as the character.
his
I think it's really good.
yeah, because I think, the writing is an element, but you need a good actor to bring the words to life, and the way he sort of delivers dialogue throughout, because he just is, like, in certain ways, in certain lines he delivers, he just is, like, sort of cool, like
Oh,
in
he's
how
so cool.
he just
He's
like
such a cool dude.
yeah, like he's not like not because I agree with him or anything, but just the way he speaks, like he's so charismatic and so just like interesting, like he just the way he talks and the way he expresses himself, it's like you want to know more about this guy, and it's like I could sort of see how people could be, I guess, radicalized to thinking
Oh,
like him, to sort of being like, oh, I let's go do this, let's go kill, like let's go take over the world, because he
yeah.
just is so compelling, you know.
They don't really meet until about an hour into the film, 2 hour film,
Yeah, like
and
T'Challa, he
yeah,
sees him when he rescues Claw, but that's it. They don't really have much interaction. And again, T'Challa, when they talk, he's very sort of reserved and he's very quiet and he's very like, look, just I don't want to have. He doesn't want to sort of deal with this. He's sort of like,
I really do wish it feels rushed. I think the first part half of the film is very sort of well done with
mm,
setting up the
said,
characters and the
yeah,
environments and the themes and ideas and whatnot. But the second half, we get to see maybe 5 minutes of Killmonger actually ruling, doing things,
yeah. That's the problem. I
and the
kind
rest, and then
yeah. There's not enough
T'Challa's
of that.
back. It's
But I guess
yeah,
because they sort of realize, like, oh, because I guess if those ships sort of leave Wakanda, then it would kind of create more of a problem. Then I don't like. It just feels the
yeah.
way
I get
they.
I get that. It's just a
It does
shame.
feel
I
a
would
bit
have
rushed
loved to see a
because
bit more of
we don't.
the sort
Yeah,
of empowered Killmonger. It would have
there's
been
not
nice to
that much.
see.
Yeah, there's not that much of him, because he just moves very quickly. Like he has the Black Panther. Yeah, he's given like the juice. I don't know. I don't know. I don't, it's not like a juice, but like he's given the. They've crushed up the plants.
Serum, is it like
Yeah, serum,
yeah.
the herb liquid that gives him the powers, and then he tells him like, yeah, burn all of this, get rid of it. Um, which that leads into an interesting question in Wakanda Forever, because it's like whoever becomes the Black Panther now, presumably they don't have like a ready supply of that stuff anymore, because Killmonger burns it all, like it's all gone now. Certainly their
Yeah, see, I
supply of
was
it.
thinking about that too. I'm sure there would be a way to.
Yeah, I would like
I'm
to.
sure they'll regrow it. Something.
Yeah, because it's
There's
sort
no
of
way.
because if they don't, it's kind of like Falcon becoming Captain America, because he's just a dude in a suit.
Yeah,
Like
see,
it's
that's exactly. I know we went through a really cool training montage where he threw the
he's
shield at some
yeah
trees,
he's doing
but he's
like
like, he
backflips
makes the
as
point. He makes the point to say like, I'm a. There's no serum. I'm a guy, and I'm like, okay, but you're not. And he's not a superhero. He's a hero.
yeah, he's just a
I
guy
don't know.
in a
Will they go
suit.
through and that's like Batman as well.
Yeah.
And obviously they both have cool tech. They're actually quite similar, except like obviously Falcon isn't a rich gothic Robin Pattinson, but the because I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it in this film. Shuri, if she is to be the next Black Panther,
hmm
and she doesn't have
The powers of
the
the
yeah the
Black
Black
Panther.
of the Herd,
Yeah.
then does she need an escape card for every person she fights now?
Yeah.
Does
Well,
she
because the
need to
suit,
find someone,
like,
or is her tech? Is it just going to be her tech? Because obviously she's a
yeah,
genius,
she's like this super
but
genius.
is
But
it
the
going to
tech can
be?
only get you so far, though.
Yeah,
Because
and
we
the
don't
the
see.
the, the serum as well. Is it a serum?
I don't know if it's it's like
Let's call it
a herbal, yeah, like liquid, yeah.
yeah,
Because the suit
yeah.
only
It
gets you
connects you.
so far, though, I think.
It
Because
connects you to Bast in the ancestral plane.
exactly,
So
yeah, and it gives you
the
sort of
role of Black Panther is almost godlike. Like
yeah,
it has that ties to their religion and to that
uh huh,
higher power.
yeah,
So
and it
yeah, what
and it's sort of weird that too, because we sort of because T'Challa doesn't really use weapon, like he's got his claws, but like he doesn't really use weapons when he's got the suit, and we haven't really seen Shuri competing in like in hand to hand combat, it's usually her with a weapon of some sort. So again, it doesn't really. She doesn't seem like a warrior, well, like a fighter in a way that T'Challa was.
Yeah.
It sort of. And if she is just like a regular person in a Black Panther suit, like it's not the same thing. And
Yeah.
it's just yeah, like Falcon again. And Falcon, I don't really like as Captain America because he's just the guy. First of all, I think they should have retired Captain America as a character, or if they were going to have him still have a Captain America, just make it Bucky because because Bucky is a super soldier effectively. Like he's
But that being said, you can't make it Bucky. Bucky's character, like although he's like he helps save the world and everything, he's Bucky has done some terrible
yeah,
things as a
you
character.
know. Well,
Yeah,
then just retire
and
the character. Then I guess like
I,
don't.
I, I like Falcon. Like he always trained with him, and he was always trying to be up there with Steve Rogers and everything. And I like that. I like how it's sort of like he's passing the mantle, and it's like you are strong enough. It's really great symbolism. Practically though, kind of
It
not
doesn't
great.
really work as
And
well.
and that's going to be the same with Shuri. Shuri's unless she has the herb or she can
Yeah,
do something with her technology because whether she makes an artificial, I'm not sure, but the whole it is awesome symbolism,
yeah.
but practically as a character,
It
it
sort of
creates it,
yeah.
it creates an issue when you have human beings with human being capabilities
Yeah,
fighting gods
yeah, like
and
because
demigods, and yeah,
yeah,
it's
sort of with the way that they're sort of setting up Marvel now with their sort of multiverse saga, because like because Doctor Strange is a human, but he's got the mystic
magical.
art,
Yeah,
he's got magical powers, and same with like Wong is the same, he's just a guy who's got magical power, he's got access to the mystic arts and everything. But Shuri, yeah, is just a human. Like she doesn't
a,
have,
a genius human. Tony Stark was just a human, but Tony Stark also had
but he had the
Renault. He had racks, and he
yeah.
also had the suit, which is, I'd argue, maybe just like a little bit more durable than the. Actually, no. I
It's
mean, being made out of vibranium.
it's
I
pretty
assume the
invincible. Like it's pretty hard. I
yeah.
think it's impossible to break through unless you have like vibranium. I think vibranium on vibranium probably will do so. Well, because
That
in
or that or like what we saw in the train scene where
yeah, where they just
the
yeah
artificial dampeners. It's going to be interesting to see the role of vibranium when um, adamantium is introduced.
yeah oh yeah
But
because because when they inevitably introduce Wolverine, yeah, because they're gonna have
yeah,
adamantium cores, yeah.
it's gonna be very interesting, and it's all going to relate to Wakanda because obviously that is their biggest sort of that's their
That's the
thing.
other strongest,
Um,
yeah. Like adamantium and vibranium are like the strongest two sort of metals that they are in the sort of Marvel universe.
yeah. Are
But
there any
yeah,
characters we didn't quite touch on throughout the?
I don't think so. I mean, there's T'Challa's mum who's sort of not much of
Ah,
a factor.
for,
I know
for
why
the
she's there because
for,
he needs a parental figure, but she's not that. No, we pretty much touched on them all, and I think we've touched on a lot of
with the
stuff in the film. Sort of, we've just sort of been going
yeah.
sort of around. I think, yeah, like the sort of third act. I think it sort of loses me a bit because the T'Challa Killmonger fight just looks so poor. It's kind of
Yeah.
just like all right, but I like the concept of him having of like the train. It's like all right, we're gonna use this because this will like disperse the suit a bit, so I'll use that to my advantage. And then I really like where he just manages to stab him, and like the suit sort of closes over and he's like, oh well. And I like how Killmonger sort of accepts his fate. He's like, well, I'm dead, and he does it, and he just pulls it out like, and it's just like
Yeah, he'd rather just die
than be a
die
prisoner
yeah,
because
yeah.
of the
And that's
history.
obviously that's obviously like a beautiful omen
Yeah,
towards like
yeah, and he
I
just
feel like Killmonger was very much like social justice,
yeah,
and
and
that's completely fair. It was just um
he's one of
the
the
he went
most
with a path of violence rather than
Yeah, and
yeah
he's one of the most compelling
villains or
characters.
just
Like I would
characters.
say
Yeah,
characters, like because he's a lot more compelling than like a lot of the heroes. Like Marvel is interesting to me because sometimes they can write absolutely fantastic, compelling character. Like Tony Stark is an incredibly compelling character in the franchise. Hulk is incredibly compelling. Thor, sort of the major characters, and then sort of the lesser characters are kind of just like, all right, I'm not
for
that.
every Hulk and Tony Stark, you have the Wasp. You know what I mean? Nothing
Yeah.
against the Wasp, but like, come on.
Yeah. But like, yeah, because you've got like, Scott Lang, Ant Man, he's quite a compelling and interesting character. And then you've just got like, you know, whoever the villain was in either of the Ant Man films. I don't remember that. Like,
Oh, I'm very, very keen for the new one, Quantum Mania. It looks
the new
amazing.
one looks pretty decent, actually. I'm interested to
Very,
see what they
very
do
keen
with
to
it.
see
Yeah,
Kang get
because
into
we'll
his work a bit.
finally. Because the thing is, with Marvel, because with this new Wakanda Forever, I really can't see how this will be, like, established, like, will be furthering the sort of overall arc
Of the multiverse
of the
saga.
multiverse
Yeah,
saga, yeah. Because this first Black Panther. Because at the end, T'Challa's like, yeah, Wakanda, well, in the post credits, he's establishing all these things, these sort of locations around the world, and he's
we're
talking.
we're gonna show you what we're made of, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
and he's also the king, and that sort of leads into Infinity War because he's friends with Captain America, and so that's how
See the
Vision
fight
gets
take
there.
place there at
And then
Wakanda as well.
Wakanda is the location of the big final battle in Infinity War. So this Black Panther film makes sense. Like, and it's a perfect, and its sort of setup is perfect because it leads fairly well into Infinity War. Like, you can watch it and then boom, Infinity War's next, and it works. But
Oh, I
this,
don't.
well, it works.
You got to put Ragnarok right between the two, I believe.
Yeah, that is true.
Ragnarok,
Ragnarok.
Infinity War is literally the direct
Yeah,
continuation.
that is
Where
true.
this one would work as well, but you've got to
You
what
you've
I
got, yeah, because you sort of at least need the post credit of Ragn. You do need like the ending of Ragnarok and the sort of post
yeah
credit scene where they are confronted by that big ship in the post credit scene.
yeah.
But yeah, Wakanda Forever, I really don't know what it's gonna do for the multiverse because it feels like because like Namor's the villain and he's not like a multiversal villain. He's like a water villain. Like it feels.
Aquaman.
Yeah, he's. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
I'm.
it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
Well, it'll be interesting to see how these characters tie into the Fantastic Four when it comes out because Black Panther first appeared in issue of the Fantastic Four.
did he?
Yeah, Fantastic Four number 52 in this. Yeah,
Huh. That
yeah.
is
So
interesting.
like, well, the Fantastic Four is sort of the birth of the MCU. Not the MCU, but Marvel
Ah,
Comics.
yeah.
They're the
Fantastic Four
first sort of
52. That
group
is
that.
interesting.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how like Shuri with her tech and
Yeah,
Doctor Doom with his genius and how all that will intertwine. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do because this for the next film and the following
mm,
because it has so much to live up to. I'm
yeah,
just going to 96% on Rotten Tomatoes for the first Black Panther, 88% on Metacritic, and 7.3 on IMDb. It's a bit sort of jumbled everywhere, but it made 1.34 billion USD at the box
yeah,
office.
yeah. It's like one of the highest grossing films of all time. Like it made.
It won
It
Oscars.
won Oscar.
Like
Yeah, it was this big cultural phenomenon. Arguably, like it.
it won Grammys.
Yeah, it won. Yeah, it won major awards at so many different places, and it's interesting that it won Oscars because it came out in February, and films that come out that early usually don't show up at the Oscars. But Black Panther was such a cultural icon, and
Although,
like
yeah, although
T'Challa
saying,
as a character,
yeah,
like he
yeah,
means
what
so
they did, yeah,
much
what
to
that did,
because
for
like
just the entire community, the world.
yeah, the world,
Like,
but specifically,
yeah,
for a lot of black kids, because up until
an
this point,
impoverished,
and
yeah.
yeah, because like there have been black superheroes in films, but like you not really ones that appeal to kids. You had like Blade, the Blade trilogy, which like kids can't
Or
watch that.
you had Don Cheadle's roadie who
Yeah,
only ever made snarky comments. It's
yeah,
like,
he wasn't the main character of the film, but you have Black Panther, who is the titular character. He is the main person. He is the character you're following, and
and obviously, real life Black Panthers, the social justice warriors
yeah,
of the
those
era.
the
It,
modern
it
yeah.
is very, very significant. We have talked a bit about the Oscars though, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that has as much validity as we're giving it.
No, because I
The
think
Oscars fell off.
because I think, and this might sound a bit cynical, but I do think maybe a reason Black Panther was nominated for Oscars was just sort of because of its cultural significance, as opposed to like sort of its overall like I like the film well enough, but I do wonder like in a like how like because it's the first superhero film to ever be nominated for Best Picture, which is
Yeah, there is an agenda. Obviously, it was a weak year, but
yeah.
there's an agenda, and I just don't personally with the Oscars. I don't. I don't see them as considerably valid anymore.
No, I don't especially either.
This,
I just think it's sort of interesting to see the impact this film had, I guess.
oh yeah, it's still won Academy Awards. Whether you like it or not, the Oscars still do mean something,
The largest
socially.
film
And
awards in the world,
yeah,
like
as film awards go, the hierarchy, like
yeah,
Oscars are
that
at the top.
yeah. So yeah, Black Panther. I'm just looking at the list of the 50 highest grossing films. Black Panther is number 14 on that list. At one point, it was number 9, so it like was in the top 10 highest grossing films ever. Like it truly, it you know, was this
Oh, we haven't.
major thing.
We also have Ironheart. Sorry, in the upcoming Black Panther film.
Do we? I haven't
Yeah,
been like keeping up
Ironheart.
with this film as much as I have like as I usually do with Marvel because I just sort of lost as much
We
investment.
have
But
Ironheart. So, well, I'm gonna. It's gonna be very interesting to see how that
yeah,
ties in with sort of Shuri's Black Panther. If
yeah,
she, yeah,
if she becomes Black Panther, because everything I've seen sort of points to her becoming Black Panther. Some people are like, "Nah, we don't actually know," and I'm like, just based on how like the Black Panther looks in the suit, because we see like the Black Panther in the suit, I'm like, that looks like sort of her, like, because she doesn't look overly, she doesn't, because the sort of other female characters, like they are bigger than her in terms of like height and sort of their build. Like she's rather
yeah,
skinny, so but
yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
yeah, do you sort of have any final things you want to say about Black Panther, the first one, or like?
Yeah, ultimately, it is. Yeah, it's a superhero story. It's I think it's a real world story with superheroes,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why it resonated with so many people. That's why it stands alone. There aren't aliens invading from a wormhole above New York. It's it has it has more than that. But just quickly, I'd like to, if you'd let me read you the synopsis that Google is giving me for the second one,
Yeah,
because
sure.
before we go,
We
because we
just
have talked
put
about it.
a rating. Do you want to just put a rating on the first Black Panther, and then you can
Out of
like a rating
10,
out of 10? Yeah.
I give it an 8. Oh, yeah, an 8. I think it deserves an 8,
Mm-hmm.
given its context. It could have been a 10, but the issues that we discussed around production and
Yeah, and the
needlessness
look.
of
Yeah,
characters.
yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with you. It's an 8 out of 10 from me as well. I originally had this as a 7, but I also hadn't seen this since it came out because that's just how I am with Marvel films. I very rarely do I rewatch them that much, which is weird because I do like a lot of them. I just don't feel
yeah.
a massive desire to go back and rewatch them. But yeah, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. It's probably in my top. I don't know if it's my top 10 Marvel films. But it's one of the higher rated ones for me. I do quite like it, but it and I do enjoy it more than I remember enjoying it. It's but yeah, no, it's quite solid. Yeah.
Queen Ramonda, Shuri, and Baku.
So Queen Ramonda's his mom, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yep, Shuri and Baku. Okay, yeah, and the Dora Milaje. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this.
No,
Fight
I
to
think that
protect
sounds right.
fight to protect their nation from intervening world powers in the wake of King T'Challa's death. So obviously,
Yeah,
um,
T'Challa is
as the Wakandans as the Wakandans strive to embrace their next chapter, the heroes must band together with Nakia and Everett Ross to forge a new path for their beloved kingdom. And it comes out November 10th in
yeah.
Australia.
So that'll be this when this episode goes out, it'll be like 4 days from when this episode goes out.
Thank you for having me, by the way. This
Yeah.
was, although it was completely and utterly like had zero direction, it was. I feel like we got somewhere with the discussion. We
Yeah, I
talked
think
about
we talked a
what
lot
was
about.
important.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for joining me for this one.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'll look to have you back again in the future because I think we had a good time with this one. I think recording with people who haven't done the show before, I'm always sort of like, oh, will it go well? And then when it goes well, I'm like, shit, yeah, let's do that again because that was good.
It was a much more of a discussion than
yeah, it was
a
discussion.
critique, but
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
check out all the other episodes. Getting close to episode 100. I believe this will be episode 98 when it goes out. So yeah, 99 will be then the week after, and then episode 100 will be after that. Check out the social media, Facebook and Instagram. Really, I've got a website. You don't have to check that out. There's not a whole lot on there. I'm still working on stuff for that. But it exists if you're interested. Harry, do you have any things you want to mention or not really?
No, I feel like we talked long enough about this
yeah.
film. Yeah. No, it was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all good. All right. Yeah. So thank you all for listening to this one. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.